Hey everyone, it is Tanya. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new here. Today I'm back with another speed build, and this is actually my first build where I am messing around with the glass walls, which were just added to the game with the update that came out right before Enchanted by Nature was released. And for some reason, the first thing I wanted to create was like a cabin, specifically like a modern A-frame cabin with like a big glass wall. And so that is what we are doing here today. I'm building in the world of Granite Falls. So this is purely a vacation home, but you could place this in any world you'd like and have Sims actually live here. But I decorated it fairly minimally so that it looked more like maybe like an Airbnb or something like that for your Sims to visit. I know before Enchanted by Nature came out, I was posting a lot of builds that were more specific to the season. I had like some summary builds. I created a mermaid house in Sulani. So I wanted to continue that with this little cabin for some sort of family vacation. So I really hope you will enjoy this one. If you do and you'd like to download it, it is available right now on the Sims 4 gallery. You can find it under my EA ID, which is Gryphi, Gryphi. You could also find it under the hashtag Gryphi, and that information will be in the description down below as well. So I called this a small cabin or a little cabin, and I would say it is not that at all. It is a 3-bedroom that has enough space for like 6 Sims. I have a primary bedroom on the main floor with a double bed, and then upstairs there are 2 more bedrooms. One has a double bed and the other has 2 singles. And I was kind of imagining as like downstairs is like the parents or whoever is paying for the space. And then upstairs, one of the rooms is more generic for what age it's for. And then the one with the two single beds I decorated for kids using the little campers kit. And I really love how this build came out. It was really refreshing to come back to something like this after decorating so many fairy homes recently. And I am just really proud of it. But anyway, right now I am just continuing to add on to this and fiddle with it a little bit to get our final shape, which we are pretty close to right now. And I really originally wanted to use this new wallpaper. That was one of the ones that was unlocked through the current Nature's Calling event that's going on in game. I didn't end up keeping it on the exterior, but I do use it in a different swatch in the kitchen later on. And I did also use the new table and chairs that came with that event in this house. And that was also a huge inspiration behind it. I was like, we have these new wood items and new glass walls. Let's create this beautiful cabin and see what we can come up with those new items. Although, as you can see here, I did just change that wallpaper to actually be a cabin wallpaper that came with Horse Ranch, and I used quite a bit of that expansion pack in this build. This is not a limited pack build whatsoever, but I will have all of that information on the gallery on which packs are used here. I even was able to use a little bit of Enchanted by Nature in this build. I'm pretty sure the only thing I used was a new lighting fixture that looks like a branch with some flowers on it. I thought it was really pretty and it worked nicely in here, as I was really trying to mix styles and have this be a modern cabin but have some more like rustic pieces, and branches as the lighting fixture I thought was a perfect addition. But speaking of Enchanted by Nature, I just wanted to quickly say thank you to all of you who decided to use my code at checkout when you picked up that expansion pack. It honestly means the world to me when y'all think of me when you're creating, or not creating, when you're purchasing packs, because I do get a small commission through the use of my code. It's a great way to support the channel if it's something that you were planning to buy anyway. So I just wanted to quickly say thank you to everyone that has picked that up and went ahead and used code Gryphi at checkout. It just really means a lot. And I hope you're enjoying the pack. I've been really enjoying building with it, but I would love to know what everyone else is thinking. Anyway, I just added a covered porch around the back of the build, and I will be adjusting the shape of it, I think, a little bit later. But right now I am starting on some of the landscaping, which I start now and I finish towards the end. But I knew I wanted to have plenty of evergreen trees and a lot of like low-lying bushes and stuff like that. I used a combination of things that were in Show Live Edit Objects from Outdoor Retreat, which is the world, or like the pack that I am building in right now. This world of Granite Falls came with that. And I also used some of the trees from Snowy Escape because I just really like the texture on them. So that is what that one out front is. And yeah, just playing around with what items I want to have out here. I thought about using those wooden hearts, which I do use inside. I just didn't keep them on the outside. I do have the horseshoes out here though, so your Sims can play some games. And then I am playing around with the terrain paint to get some dirt and gravel to make it kind of blend into the surroundings, and then starting to work on some more of the bushes. I tried a bunch of different things in here. Some things felt too light, some felt too dark, and so you're going to see me swap out quite a few items, but we get there in the end, and I think it looks pretty nice. but that is going to be a little bit of a process, especially trying to make sure nothing was clipping into the house. But I do very minimal landscaping to begin with and do most of the rest of it later on. And there ends up being some like rock pavers leading to the front of the house. But anyway, we are jumping inside now to start working on the floor plan. I started by getting rid of all of the walls for just like the random boxes I created as I was building the structure. And then I'm putting in these stairs, which are the floating stairs that I think came with businesses and hobbies. So it looks like they're just coming out of the wall. And I didn't end up putting a railing on them. I did try it, but since railings automatically place on both sides of the stairs, it looked really odd clipping through the glass wall. So I decided to leave it as is. It's not the safest thing, but in The Sims, your Sims are not going to actually fall down. So I thought it was fine. Anyway, now I'm trying to figure out where I want to place everything. I thought the kitchen in the front might work, but then I change it and it's actually going to be in this corner here with our dining table around the back. And that ended up working out so nicely. Here is where the fireplace is going to go. It actually does not line up where I put the chimney on the outside of the house, but we're going to ignore that because in The Sims 4 it doesn't matter. I know in previous games it did, but in this one it's fine. And I just really liked how the outside looked, and I strategically actually placed that chimney on the outside where I did to kind of cover up the roof on the other side that wasn't going to be glass and would kind of break the illusion I wanted of the upper floor. So that's why that was placed there. It just didn't work in the floor plan for that to be where the fireplace actually was. However, I do have a fireplace in a couple of spots in this house. There ends up being one in the primary bedroom downstairs as well as in the living room. And now I am just painting some of the walls. I mostly used the same texture that I used on the exterior of the build throughout the entire interior. I felt like that was pretty realistic from what I've seen from cabins. And I use this like lighter wood too, which I thought was really fun. I think usually when I've created cabins in the past on the channel, I always use like a dark wood. So using this sort of orangey wood was a little bit different and I just really loved it. It is from Horse Ranch, as I had mentioned earlier, and I feel like I just haven't used it much. Maybe I just haven't built in that world a lot or haven't built that many like ranch homes or something. Not that this is a ranch home, this is a little cabin for like a family vacation or something, but it worked so nicely here. I love when I rediscover an item or a swatch, a wallpaper that I haven't used or have very rarely used and get to use it in the game. It makes it feel like it's new. And speaking of new, since the glass walls are new, I really want to do some more builds with them. This one was like my first one and it's only using a few tiles of the glass walls. I feel like these would work so nicely in some like really modern builds or like maybe mid-century modern as well. And those are two styles that I quite enjoy. Well, especially mid-century modern. Full-on modern is like, okay, I don't like dislike it. It's not my favorite though, but mid-century modern I love. So maybe I will play around with one or both of those sometime soon using the glass walls. It might also be interesting to play around with them using only base game to see how they transform the game in that way. Anyway, we are inside now and starting to work on the kitchen, and this kitchen goes through quite the change. I try like every cabinet in the game and every swatch in the game, and I cut out a lot of that because otherwise this entire video would be me swapping out the cabinetry, but you will see a few of the different ones that I did try. It was just hard for me to figure out how I wanted to match with this table over here because I knew before I started this build that I really wanted to use this new table and chairs from the Nature's Calling event. So trying to pick a kitchen that felt like it was the right colors and the right amount of modern versus rustic to match with this rustic table. So we get there. And I actually end up using the base game counters that are like more industrial, and that helped me to lean into a few more industrial items in this house to begin with, which I thought worked so beautifully with all of the wood tones in here. So I was pleased with it. But as you can see, I am now trying the counters from Horse Ranch again. And then we're ignoring that they changed swatches, so I can come over here and pick a hutch to go near the dining table. I end up going with this one from Laundry Day, which I think is absolutely beautiful. And we're going to clutter that up with all kinds of stuff. And then I just have a trash can over here, and I hung up this little wooden sign, which I believe is from the holiday pack. I like to place that around outside of holidays in that one particular swatch that doesn't have like a snowman or a Christmas tree on it. But here are the countertops I end up using, and I paired them with the upper heads here from Home Chef Hustle because I'm not a fan of the upper heads that come with these base game cabinets. So I thought that these were quite nice. And then I'm just scaling up the fridge ever so slightly with tools so that it's a little bit taller under that cabinet piece so it doesn't look like it's just kind of floating in place. And then this is where all of the cluttering comes into place with the little hutch I placed over here. I got this stuffed animal from Outdoor Retreat. Actually, most of the clutter, if not all of the clutter that I placed up here is from Outdoor Retreat, which I thought was really fun. I tried to heavily use that pack in this build since I'm building in the world of Granite Falls, and the whole idea was to create like this little cabin. So I thought it was only appropriate to use plenty of Outdoor Retreat, especially because it's a pack I don't use that often. I feel like it's just kind of niche. We have that and little campers, and those are like the two camping packs. So I heavily used both of them, especially when we get upstairs to the kids' bedroom. I used little campers quite a bit, and it was so fun. And I never get to use that pack because I feel like the beds are hard to use because they're cots, and I don't tend to use that in your everyday bedroom, but I felt like for the context of this house, it made a lot of sense. So it just felt like having new items at my disposal. So I'm really excited to show you that room when we get to it. But right now I'm just finishing cluttering up the kitchen. I have some cutting boards in the corner as always, a little plant, and I also got a microwave in here, and then just grabbing a little curtain to put over the window. Oh, and I also ended up grabbing the cart that came with the kitchen clutter kit. Is that what that's called? That is like a little island you can put in the middle of the room. It's just a surface. It doesn't work as like a kitchen island, but I thought it looked cute and it helped fill up the space. So I put that here with a little bit of clutter under it, and we didn't have enough cutting boards, so I also put a cutting board on top of it. I forgot we had this item from Kitchen Clutter, and I got excited when I saw it, so I decided to place it. Anyway, moving into the living room, you can see that I had preemptively placed down the sofa from the Industrial Loft kit because I was really liking mixing industrial in here. I thought it looked really cool. I also loved this like little framed thing of a little fish you can use for bait for fishing. I believe that came with Growing Together, and it just felt so perfect for a little cabin like this. I assume your Sims would probably spend a lot of time outside going fishing. This area is like surrounded by water, so I thought that was a fun choice there, and a piece of decor I almost never use. And then I ended up grabbing this coffee table from Outdoor Retreat that looks like it's just made out of some logs. And then I also grabbed a couple of bookcases to put on either side of the fireplace. These ones are also from Growing Together, and there's two different versions of them, so the clutter is on different spots. And I thought that that was a good way to make it look less repetitive, so I put one of each on either side, and then I filled it in with additional clutter. So you'll see that here momentarily, but I'm first cluttering up this little side table here with some books, a lamp, a plant, some just generic sculptures. And then I really wanted to fill up this space with like board games, because that feels like something you would probably spend a lot of time doing in a little cabin like this. I've never been to one, to be honest, but that feels like something that makes sense to do when you're on a little like secluded vacation like this. I have been to like a secluded spot in the woods in like upstate New York, but I didn't stay in a cabin. I stayed in a tiny house, which is, very appropriate for me. And that was the kind of thing that I was doing. So I was kind of thinking about that experience when I was picking some items in here. So there is a chess table on the coffee table, and then there is like piles of games on the bookshelves. I also added a bar over here, and this one I believe is from Party Essentials. I just think it looks really nice. It doesn't have that overhang on the back, so you can put it flush against the wall, and it just looks really nice. And then here is our entryway, where I used this side table from the Fitness Stuff Pack, and I actually used quite a few items from there as well for the bathrooms, because they have this sort of modern but wooden metal style to them. I guess they could be industrial, but it feels like they're kind of a little bit rustic as well, which is exactly what I was going for in here, so they were perfect. And another set of items that I don't use that often, but I do really like the Fitness Stuff Pack. It's one that I feel like I used to use a lot, but I don't anymore, so it was nice to use that here. But here you can see the sink and the toilet from that pack, and then I paired it with a mirror from the Sleek Bathroom Kit, and I got just a little bit of clutter in here. I think it's just like a plant and some soap on the sink. And then there is a cabinet I put over in the corner here from Horse Ranch that has like towels and stuff, and I put that in all three of the bathrooms in this, I almost called it an apartment, in this cabin. And I really wish it popped up in the room category when you're filtering by clutter for bathrooms, because some of those pieces do, but only the ones from the older packs do. Like Seasons and Parenthood and Base Game are in there, but we have ones from like Life and Death and Horse Ranch, and they're not there. So I never know where to find it. So I just filter by the entire pack and look for it. So that'd be nice if that ever got updated. Anyway, this is the primary bedroom. I am heavily using Industrial Loft in here with the rug, the bed, the bedside tables, and then I grabbed a couple of these little lamps on either side, some wall sconces. And I thought that this print of some trees above the bed, which is actually from Dream Home Decorator, would look nice. I was really trying to lean into artwork that made sense for a cabin, and I was running out of options because there's only so many things that have trees on them in the game. So I tried, and I think it worked out okay. I am trying to think if I had any repeats. I might have repeated that base game, like Mountain and Forest. I think it's called like Alpine something, the name of it. I might have repeated that more than once. I'm not entirely sure. But I tried my best to put different items throughout the house so it didn't feel like you were just looking at all of the same artwork. And here you can see I did clutter up the bedside tables. There are a couple of personal items, but I didn't want it to feel like super cluttered because I wasn't really imagining somebody full-time lived here. I was more so imagining you're probably visiting for a short period of time, or maybe this is your summer house and you live here in the summer and then you go back to your house other seasons. I'm not really sure. Or you can just have your Sims live here full time if you want to place this down in another world. There's quite a few worlds I feel like it could work in, especially because we do have quite a few now that have like wooded areas like this. So Glimmerbrook is the first one that comes to mind, but there are others as well. Anyway, upstairs on this little balcony space, I did place down a desk. There's no computer on it, but you could place one if you'd like to. I just have a lamp and some books. And then here I added some artwork at the top of the steps to just line that wall. And then these are going to be the 2 bedrooms upstairs. As you can see, I placed down the beds first. And these are those cots I had mentioned from Little Campers. I think they are so cute. And so is this like blanket. That's a rug that I placed down. It looks like a quilt. So I put that on the ground and I'm actually going to layer it with another rug later on. There is a cute one that came with Outdoor Retreat that I forgot about until later on, and so I will place that on top, and I think it looks so, so cute. I also added some like climbing gear up above the bed as a decoration. I feel like this is an area that would make sense to do like rock climbing and stuff like that. Technically, there's not a place in game in this world to do that. That is something, I think the only world that has that is Mount Komorebi, but it just felt like it was appropriate for the space. But there's the rug that I had mentioned. I just layered that in here. And then moving on to our final bedroom, where I used the bed, the bedside table, and the dresser that all came with Outdoor Retreat. And at first I started with this like light wood color, but I don't keep it in the end. I actually go back to a darker one and a blue swatch on the bed. And it just looks so much nicer in here. Grabbing this mirror in the corner, a little plant, and I also added a guitar in here. And this is the one that came with Outdoor Retreat. That's got like a little camping sticker on it. I thought it was really cute. And then I'm just getting a couple of accessories for the bedside table. Like I think I grabbed a clock and some books. And that should be it for this room. And I think we're going to head outside now to finalize some of the landscaping after I put a little plushie in the kids' room. Oh, and downstairs on the outdoor deck, I had a games table out there. I thought it would be fun for your Sims to play a variety of games together. So I just added a couple more chairs to that. And I had grabbed the swing set and the fire pit from Little Campers. So I'm just adding some seats out here and trying to make that as cozy as possible. I also added a table, a like picnic bench, and I believe some planters, and then we're just going to finalize the landscaping and head on into screenshots. So I really hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. You can also subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more and click that bell to be notified when I upload. And a massive thank you to my YouTube members for your continued support. If you'd like to become a member yourself, you can click the join button below the video or the link in the description. Enjoy the screenshots and I'll see y'all soon. Bye everyone.